There we are.
Hey, everybody, it's Dave here. Darren over there. We're your 2-0 bloggers. Sorry, I'm running just a few minutes late today. It just happens to happen every once in a while. But have we got a show for you? We've got 3 themes as usual. First one, we're going to be talking about the front office. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah consolidated, hired some new people, and there's some interesting factoids to come out of that. I was looking for some more analytic types, and he did get one. Yes, he did. But there's some other stuff that comes out of that too, which is very, very interesting. In our second theme, we are looking at gambling in the NFL. Why? Because there's been a bunch of it, and a bunch of players have been suspended. Knock on wood. The Vikings aren't one of them. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then the third and final theme, we're going to look at the rookie spotlight. This time, our number 1 pick, Mr. Jordan Addison. All next on 2-0 Bloggers. Vikings First and SKOL presents This Week in Vikings Land with Darren and Dave, your 2-0 bloggers. Hey, everybody, it's me here, Darren over there, and we're back after Darren's missing last week, and I greatly appreciate all the feedback I got from last week's show. Everybody seemed to love it, and I had a blast doing it. We are your 2-0 bloggers. We've been commenting publicly on the Minnesota Vikings for over 2 decades apiece publicly. That's why I put old in there. But anyways, how you doing, Darren?
Doing okay, Dave.
Good.
Love the weather here in Yellowknife. And it was Canada Day yesterday. It rained a little bit, which it always seems to do on Canada Day, at least when I'm around. So. Happy Canada Day to any Canadian watchers. Happy post-Canada Day to any Canadian watchers today. And happy July the 4th upcoming to all of our American viewers, which is the majority.
Yes, but we have viewers all over the world. And if people didn't know that, that is the case. We do. Which is, I think, is absolutely cool, outstanding. We have Adam is joining us for the first time today, and I wanted to point that out. He popped on, Adam Jackson, that he
Welcome,
is
Adam.
Hearing that. He says Darren's echoing. I think that's because of Darren's room at the moment. He's still on his old system. He has the new system and is ready to set it up, but he was busy this week enjoying the beautiful weather in Yellowknife. And for those that don't know, where is Yellowknife, Canada?
I don't know. Way north, Dave. If you try to find Edmonton, Alberta on a map and then go north of that, way north, and you'll eventually run into Yellowknife, which is in the Northwest Territories, Canada, which is a territory, not a province, which is... I'm not going to get into all the details, but we're pretty far north. Not above the tree line. Not above the tree line, but we're pretty far north.
Yep.
I'm trying to figure out how it works latitudinally with like someplace like Anchorage. But I think Anchorage is a little bit north of us.
Okay.
Quite a bit north. But
they're warmer because you're inland on the east of the Rockies, so you get when we talk about the polar ice cap or polar vortex coming down into the States, it originates with you. We can blame you.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Or wildfires.
Or wildfires and smoke, yes. And we know that. Now, Darren, for those that are asking, yes, Darren has this new setup. He doesn't have it set up yet. He's still using his old mic. He will have it set up hopefully for next week, and he will sound great and grand. Now, we titled this one, Vikings Adofo-Mensah's Women, Gambling, and the Number 1 Pick. Why did I title it that? Because I wanted clicks. So when we could get there, I tried to make it interesting. This was a tough one to try to figure out the thumbnail for. but I think we did a good job.
You did a good job, Dave.
I see the docs in the room. That's Mr. Doc Proto. Justin's here. Raymond's here. My Worthless Opinions here. Bob Swede is here. We have Adam for the first time watching live. Jordan is here. We have, who else am I missing? I know Raymond's in there. So
he is.
Yeah. So let's get this show going with theme 1. And for some reason, that didn't work. Why? Oh, I know.
It's a little different.
No, it was there. Just me putting the other image above it. All right. First theme. Kwesi and his hiring.
That's right, Davey. A few weeks ago, we talked about... we got into Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and talked about his scouting and pro personnel department and how that's gradually things are changing from he's turning over the Rick Spielman dudes that were there before him. It had been a bit of a slow process, and he's starting to accelerate that a bit. We kind of went over how the scouting department and the pro personnel department, how it's looking right now. Since that show, on June 16th, the Vikings came out with a press release where they announced 10 new hires and 5 promotions of people who were already on the staff who got a different job title and have moved up in the world. And some of those hires are already been announced. We talked about them a few weeks ago. One of them was Matt Kelly, who's now an area scout for the Vikings, and then DeLuca, who you just put up.
Right.
Got
where I have pictures, I will post them. I couldn't find pictures on everybody, but I got quite a few.
Yeah. So those had already been leaked out by beat writers, NFL writers, and we had talked to them as well on the team. They got announced, but the other 8 had not been that I hadn't seen anything about them yet, and they were new to me. And the interesting thing that I found from the 10 new hires in particular is that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is shaping his scouting department and his player personnel department to be more gender diverse. And because he added, in those 10 new hires, he added 3 women. 3 women have been hired.
In the personnel department.
In the scouting and personnel department. One of his hires is Salli Clavelle, who was I believe, I read this, that she was the first African-American pro scout in the NFL. She worked for the 49ers for 5 years, so she worked with Kwesi Adofo-Mensah a little bit before he moved over to Cleveland. So Kwesi Adofo-Mensah had some familiarity with her. He's brought her on as a pro scout. Also added to the scouting department was Shantel Rodgers and Michelle Mankoff. Both of those women have been. They were part of what's the Nunn-Wooten Scouting Fellowship, which is a program that the NFL's developed to. If people are interested, it was geared to players, but it's also geared to people who have a job at the college level in scouting type or interested in scouting. And so both of these women had been in that fellowship. Previously, Michelle Mankoff had been with the Buffalo Bills, and I think Shantel Rodgers has been with the Vikings. In the Nunn-Wooten Scouting Fellowship. They've been out of the Scouting Associates. And they were, so those 3 ladies have already joined. One woman who was already part of the Viking scouting and player personnel department, which was Taylor Brooks. And she'd been a player personnel analyst, I believe, already hired. So the Vikings, so that is 4 women in the scouting and player personnel department that the Vikings currently have. And I didn't get a chance, Dave, to scour the NFL websites to see how other teams, what their makeup is as far as makeup of gender with their scouting and player personnel department. But I think it'd be safe to say that 4 women in the scouting and player personnel department seems like a lot to me in the NFL. And for example, I did look at just the NFC North, and the Detroit Lions The Chicago Bears currently don't have any women in the scouting or player personnel department listed on their website, and the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers have one each. So the Vikings have way more right now with these three hires than anybody in the NFC North. And my guess is probably they have more than just about any NFL team, any team in the NFL. And I think that's pretty significant because it's not going to be news to anybody here that is watching. But women, men generally they've done these jobs all the time, whether it's scouts, player personnel. It's not a profession that women have been involved in, have gotten jobs in the NFL since the NFL has been in existence. And I think it's pretty significant that Kwesi has added this amount here. And these are pretty important positions. Now, scouting associates, I think that'd be like the entry-level scout position for on an NFL team. So Shantel and Michelle are getting in on the ground floor here. But still, these people are the ones who are the eyes and ears for Kwesi Adofo-Mensah on the ground. They're giving him intel. They're going from town to town. They're gathering info, giving recommendations on college players that the Vikings might be drafting, or pro players that they might be interested in acquiring or signing as free agents. They're providing that intel. They're providing that intel, that information that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and his staff is going to gather and consider when they're building up a roster. And I think that having that many women on the staff also, rightly or wrongly, is going to be scrutinized by fans, by people who are following the team outside, because as Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's draft history grows, as his roster building record grows, people are going to look at, well, how good of a job is he doing? And if he isn't doing a very good job, they're going to look at the scouting staff, player personnel staff, and wonder if he's got the right people there giving him the right information and helping him make the right decisions. So this is something that's going to be scrutinized because, again, I think that people are going to be wondering, well, can a woman do as good a job as a man? Because women don't really play football, and the whole thing about playing and how that helps you evaluate talent and that sort of thing. So my feeling is I'm not worried about this. The things that scouts and player personnel are looking at that they have to observe, like explosiveness, like can players break separation, speed, height, their jumping ability, how strong they are, their football IQ. Those are all things that you don't need to be a certain gender to observe and make good decisions on. Anybody can do that. It's just a matter of doing it enough and having exposure. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, he's picked these women. He sees something in them, and maybe they're going to bring different ideas, different ideas, and just a different perspective that we haven't seen before. I don't know if it's going to work. Again, I believe it's an interesting thing he's doing, and that was the big noteworthy thing that I saw coming out of that announcement of the 10 new hires and the 5 promotions. Is he's got made his front office or his scouting and player personnel staff more gender diverse than anything I've seen in pro football in my time following the league.
I agree with you. I don't disagree with you. Sorry if I was not trying to pay attention. The guys are saying, you are echoing. Yes, your reverb is off the charts, just like Darren's was the first time he tried it. And I don't know why is causing that. I was sitting there trying to figure it out. But I agree, this whole idea of there's numerous women that he has hired. There's the ones in the personnel office that are going to do the scouting. There's one that, during my research, that is the analytic type, right? The one that's going to crunch the numbers. There's one, I think that's the head of IT, or that may have been a guy, but this is the head of IT. But there's certain things. They have a good half of them, it seems like, on the staff are women. And that's unusual. Very, very unusual for the NFL. And as I tried to write in a promo, it's the wiser sex, and it could give us a big advantage in the end because they tended not to be as threatening as some crusty old scout, right? Some crusty old scout's going to be up there in the stands. And he's munching on his cigar and he's watching players and going, "Hey, I don't like this guy," right? His footwork isn't right. But they're not going to be threatening. They can come up and go, "Hey, I'm scouting for the Minnesota Vikings. I have a few questions." And people are more likely to open up and find out things and then go, "Yeah, I'm observing this and I'm observing that and I'm observing this." I think we're going to get a better quality scouting report from them. It's going to be interesting to see, but I do look forward to it. And guys, I apologize that the audio, for some reason, on Darren is coming in with extreme high reverb. It happened to Darren or to Tyler, his first show, when he came in, and then he hooked up his Rodecaster and updated the software, and he's been perfect ever since. We will have to get this figured out. But let's move on to theme 2. Gambling in football.
Yes, well, this week, Dave, I wanted to bring this up because, of course, this week the NFL brought the hammer down on 4 players, most notably Isaiah Rodgers, who's a pretty significant player in the secondary for the Indianapolis Colts. And 3 of them have been suspended indefinitely, which means probably the entire season. And previous to that, of course, the NFL had suspended 4 Detroit Lions players and 1 Washington Commanders player, and the most notable player with the Detroit Lions was, of course, Jameson Williams, who's been suspended for 6 games for violations of the NFL gambling policy, and he was a guy that a first round pick in 2022, and actually a guy that I was hoping the Vikings would draft, and instead they traded out of there and ended up getting Louis Cine. But as I'm sweating here from my tennis match previously, sorry, that's another thing I gotta. Hopefully, it doesn't bother too many people. But I wanted to bring this up, Dave, because I fortunately no Vikings have fallen afoul of the NFL's gambling policy. Knock on wood, like you say. And yet, even though there's been numerous players in the past year or so that have been suspended due to violations of the NFL gambling policy, and really, I don't know what it's. The NFL is a violent sport, Dave. We talk about it all the time. It's so easy for players to miss games because of injuries, which are not, a lot of times aren't preventable. They're kind of, they happen during the game. Sometimes
they can be fluky.
Fluky.
Yeah.
It's hard to, you can do all you can with preparing guys and all of that and getting them the right equipment and the right treatment, but sometimes it just can't prevent guys from playing in a violent sport and getting hurt and missing games. So a lot of that isn't preventable. But when you miss a game because you did something, that was out of bounds with a gambling by gambling to the NFL's gambling policy, that is preventable. And it's all about education and messaging that the teams give and the NFL gives. And, I just kind of wonder that, my worry is that, or not my worry, but I feel that, the NFL I don't know what it's like in the US right now, Dave. Maybe you can fill me in and some of our listeners can, but I know in Canada, the online stuff is like, when I watch a sports right now, basketball on the Canadian stations that run it, the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, man, like, they online betting stuff, like the promotion of it is off the charts all over the place. Like, it is in your face every commercial break. They're advertising sports books, bet on this, bet on that. And during the actual telecast in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, I found it was a little bit like disturbing to me. Like, it's baked into the into the period intermissions. Like you've got betting lines going across the ticker. You've got the studio host going to a guy who's talking about, betting in the game, blah, 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 blah. Bet on who's going to score next. Who's going to do this? Here's the odds. Do it responsibly, but it's bet, 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 bet. And it's just all over the place. And that stuff that stays in your face, it's in your face all the time, that marketing, that's got to have an impact. That constant barrage of bet on, bet on this, bet online, go to the sports book, bet on this, bet on that. And it seeps in. I know lots of people who are younger than me that are, that they're the online age. They bet all the time with these online apps. And you got to know that these football players with a lot of cash on their hands are going to be susceptible to the same things. And so I just feel that I'm hoping that, the NFL has, all rookies have a mandatory session where they learn about the betting, the do's and the don'ts. That's done. And the NFL is actually now, because with this recent announcement, they're bringing in officials that are going to go to each team, talk about the gambling policy and the proliferation of the online betting, and talk to each team about the do's and don'ts. But I don't think that that's enough. If I'm the Vikings, I'm at Egan, I'm making this in their face. Like every time they go to the cafeteria, there's like a poster or there's a decal on there talking about, do you know the NFL's gambling policy? Do bet,
don't be these guys.
Yeah. Right? Don't be these guys. Like, talk, reach out. We've got somebody who's an expert on betting on our team, in our front office and our staff. Talk to them about this if you got questions, because I don't think even, some of the things like that the gambling policy goes, like you can't even be in a fantasy football. You can't, that's part of the gambling thing. I think if there's money involved, you can't be doing fantasy football.
It's got to be money involved. And
and you can't. I think a lot of players probably weren't aware that they bet on not football matters, but they did it at the team facility, and that's where they got into trouble. Or you can't have family members betting for you. Those sorts of things. Like this has to be drilled into Kevin O'Connell, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. I hope that they recognize that we've got to drill this into everybody, make it second nature, that betting, I know what the do's and don'ts are, because you don't want Christian Darrisaw or Justin Jefferson or Kirk Cousins. Well, Kirk Cousins would never do it, but you don't want a key Viking, and actually any Viking, becoming the next Calvin Ridley, who's lost your team for a year over some stupid betting thing that they should have known better, and they could know better. But just, this is serious. This is serious stuff.
Now, we do get a lot of the books, commercials. DraftKings is one of them, for an example. There's dozens of them out there that, say, hey, we'll give you $200 in free bet or $1,000 in free bet. You just got to do blah, 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 and come on and bet however you want. And it's on the radio shows. They sponsor quite a few, and they can sponsor podcasts. If they want to sponsor podcasts, they can come sponsor us if they want. But in the U.S., we don't generally get the ticker of bet now, during this game. What's the next play? Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, talks about that is the next step. As soon as they can make it so that with the Wi-Fi inside stadiums and such, that you're making a bet and hitting it before the delay in the TV, right? So, because you got to remember, delay in the TV minimum on a live open air broadcast is 5 seconds. Generally, everybody else, right? If we're streaming, whereas I'm 1 or 2 plays behind, damn it,
yes,
type shit, and you can't bet. Real-time betting has to be. They're working towards real-time betting, but they aren't there yet in the States with that. Jonathan talked about Brazil. Some soccer players caught betting against themselves. First off, number one, if the NFL is courting these people, and they are a bunch, that's one of the things that's causing the salary cap to go up, is that they're allowing sports betting, right? And they're sponsoring these guys, and they're getting tons of money to do that. So, but what they've got to do with the players and the personnel, it's not just players, it's also coaches, right? Detroit not only lost players, they lost a coach over it. And, inside the facility, it's got to be, one, you're a pro football player, you work for a pro football team, you cannot bet whatsoever on pro football, period. Number one, boom. It's your sport. You're going to get busted anytime they think you have inside information. No, you cannot do it. It's off limits. You get caught doing it, you're suspended, right? The NFL. And the policy's been out there. It's whether it's been drilled enough into teams and players, that may go on an individual team basis. And obviously Detroit is one of the big ones, and so is Indianapolis. Hopefully it was drilled in at Minnesota. Now, you can take that and you go, well, you can legally bet, but not on your sport because you're involved with it, or any sport that you have inside knowledge of, right? And so they go, what could that be? Yeah, that may be college football. Guy, we're going to get into Jordan Addison. He went to Pitt and USC. Maybe he knows a little something from his buddy still back at Pitt or USC, right? So he couldn't do that. That's a no-no. You can't do it an associated sport. So they might not you can't bet on college football because you're a football player. You might know those guys, right? Or the school you went on blah, blah, however they want to word it. And then they said, but you can bet, but you can't do it on, within the facilities. You can't do it it's got to be on your time, not on ours, right? And if you're at the facilities, you're on our time. So, no, military works a lot of that. There was, when the internet went big, you couldn't post on Facebook or anything like that at the beginning because you're on a government computer. We're not going to allow it, right? Yeah. But then they started to allow it, and then they said, you can't do this. You got to do that on your personal time versus duty time and blah, blah. And you can work out these rules and regulations and still have it work, but it's tough. It's real tough for these kids. They're suddenly got overflowing in money, right? And there's like, well, hey, I know. Hey, I like watching March Madness, and my team and my bracket is this, and I'm going to put $1,000 down or however much. And they may think it's nothing. Well, that nothing quickly turns into a big deal. And then down here we get a lot of, and if you have a problem with gambling, in Virginia call this, in Maryland call this, and Utah call this, and then Minnesota call this, and they just go through all the different states. And it's one of those, fast lawyer-ese talking announcers that is just going 90 miles an hour, and it's just like, a simple thing would be hey, we've got you on the team. You belong to the Minnesota Vikings, right? You're free off the clock to do what you want, but be reminded, you still have responsibilities of being in this league, and they include not gambling on football, right? Our sport, and not gambling on other sports that you may be connected to. And not gambling on our facilities, and not doing this and not doing that. And the simple way to stay out of trouble is don't gamble.
And exactly, you see this with impaired driving too, Dave. Where the marketing campaigns, the people still do it, and it leads to terrible consequences. But at least when you keep that constant thing, it becomes frowned upon. People know they can't do it, like the automatic. I just don't think that right now with the gambling, that players, especially rookies coming into the league, that is second nature to them, and that they do know those things like I can't bet at the team facility on basketball, even though it's not football, or right. I can't bet. I can't be part of a fantasy football league where there's money involved. Like those are some. It seems like the policy seems pretty cut and dry. There's like 6 things that you can't do. you just got to make sure you're doing all you can as a pro football team with such important assets that need to be. The most important ability is availability. You
right.
cannot.
And not only you're protecting yourself, you're protecting the league, which is your payday. That's where they get the money in, right? If suddenly we have all sorts of scandals and then Congress comes down and they shut down stuff, the money tap is going to be constricted, right? As they try to kick this stuff out. So keep it as clean as possible and don't get in trouble. And who was it? It was Dan on here. How about wait until you're out of the league? Yeah, that works fine. Once you're no longer belong to a team, do what you want. You're just a normal American citizen. Gamble however you wish. Do it smartly. Don't lose all your money, right? And so it's not a bad idea, but it's, we get into, you talked about Indy losing a lot of players, and we know Detroit lost quite a few, which doesn't go into the hype of Detroit. But anyways,
but Calvin Ridley's been the highest profile guy that's been snared in this thing a lot. And Jameson Williams would be the other. But please, Vikings, do all you can to make this second nature, that the kids, the players that you've got in your room on your team understand the seriousness of this policy, what you can do as far as betting, what you cannot do as far as betting, and where you can do it and where you can't do it. Just so one little bet and you could be suspended for 6 games. You could lose a Christian Darrisaw because he made a stupid mistake that might not even seem that serious,
and that
to us,
could
but it's
cost you
part of the
your
policy.
season, the team's season.
Yeah.
And it could cost you your career. It's not worth gambling to me. If
you're a marginal player like Quentin Cephas from the Detroit Lions, you get cut from the Lions because of what you did, and you might not never get another job again. Jameson Williams gets a second chance, but the lower level guys probably do not.
Right. They're now looking for a job over at Home Depot or wherever.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or they're playing in the CFL or XFL.
True. Now, I was asked, what am I sipping? And today, why? Because Darren says he likes port. I bought a bottle of Texas bourbon that is finished in a tawny port cask. It aged 4 years in the bourbon cask. And there was, then again, how much longer in the tawny port? It was a year or 2 in a tawny port cask. See how dark it is? That is coming out from that second aging and the Texas funk. It's got a bit of the Texas funk, which I love, but it very much has notes of plum, grape from the port, sweetness. It's got some brown sugar and maple syrup, and it's got smoke in it, like a campfire smoke versus a peaty smoke for like in a Scotch. It is quite delicious, I must admit. But that is what I'm sipping today.
Looks good, Dave.
Mm-hmm. Now, let's move on to Theme 3. Jordan Addison.
Here we are, July 2nd, and we've finally gotten to the last Vikings draft pick. It's been a long journey, Dave. But yeah, we all since the draft ended, we've did a little bit of I've done a little bit of a assessment of each Vikings draft pick, and we're finally at the last one. We started from the bottom rung guys, Dwayne McBride, and moved our way up towards Jordan Addison. And as everybody knows, 23rd overall pick in the first round. Vikings went offense in the first round at 23, even though there were some good corners still available at that time. Joey Porter Jr., Deontay Banks was still available. But the Vikings went offense with Jordan Addison instead of going cornerback, which I thought that they might do. I'm fine with the pick. I think looking at the pick now, I feel that it was a good pick, a safe pick, but a pick also an excellent pick. And I say safe not in a bad way, because if you look at Jordan Addison, played 3 years of college, very productive as a freshman, 60 catches at Pitt. His second year at Pitt, huge breakout season, 100 catches, over 1,500 yards, 17 TDs, Blitnikoff Award winner. Then he transfers to USC, probably because Kenny Pickett is gone and he wants to play with Caleb Williams at USC. He goes over to USC, and last year he had 59 catches, 875 yards, and 7 TDs. So every year that Jordan Addison has been at college football, playing at the highest level of college football, he has been productive. So when I say a safe pick, I mean, there's no projections you're doing here with Jordan Addison. This is not a one-year wonder like Quentin Johnson, who had one good year, and then you're wondering how it's all going to translate when he goes to the pros. Jordan Addison has been a very productive, hugely productive in his second year, but he's been a very productive wide receiver all 3 years he played college football. And so I think that you got the tape. You can be confident, I think Kwesi Adofo-Mensah was, you're going to be confident that Jordan Addison is going to be a very productive NFL player. Will he be a super duper duper star? We don't know. But I think I'm confident that he's going to be a productive, good player at the NFL level. And so I like the pick because the Vikings had a need there. Adam Thielen is not here anymore. We needed at least a number 3 wide receiver, and I think Jordan Addison can fill that. When you look at his college and the things that he did well. When I was looking at some of the games that I watched, the one thing that stood out to me is that, he's not a huge 4.3 guy, but he's still pretty fast. But what I found was that, like, he's got this, I don't know how to call it, Dave. Maybe this isn't the right football term, but he's got kind of rapid fire feet to create opening. Like his feet can just go bing, 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 bing. And then he's by a guy, no matter whether they're press. He can just use his feet. He's got that quick twitch stuff, and he can create separation with the quick feet, just booming and just bing, 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 bing. And he's gone. And he's got the DB done at the line of scrimmage, even if they're playing press.
Now, next time you need to watch. Yes, he does have that. I don't disagree one little bit. But where he's going to win for the Vikings, and this is what fans need to be aware of. When a receiver, all right, you're talking about getting off the line, right?
Yeah.
And he gets to his mark. His mark may be 5 yards, it may be 8 yards, it may be 10 yards, 12 yards deep. And that's where he's going to make his cut, depending on whatever read he has, right? It may be a cut outside to the flag, cut inside to the post, square out, button curl back in, whatever's the play calls for and his read calls for, that's where he's going to make it. Now, what he is extremely, extremely, extremely good at that most wide receivers are not is the fact that when he comes in, he's coming in at full speed, which most wide receivers do, right? Unless they're adjusting their speed and holding back and running at 80% or whatever. But watch them. When they come into the break, they take a few shorter steps and they come down and they get ready to break. Now, some good receivers will use that to juke. They may put a foot out to do this, to turn the defender's hips, to get him to turn, hey, I'm going this way. That's fine. But they usually take 5 to 7 steps in and out of that break to do that. If you count those steps, it's usually 5 to 7 steps. He can do it in 3. Mm-hmm. And it's smooth, and you don't see that. It doesn't give the defender time to react, right? He may step and go this way, and the defender goes, oh, shit, now I got to go this way, right? And turns his hips that way, and he's already by him. Why? Yeah. Because he took less steps to get there, and he's back at full speed, and he's blown by him. That's what we're going to see from Addison. It's not that he's got 4.2 or 4.3 speed. That would be nice. But he's beating everybody on the cut. And when you can do that, and then suddenly on that cut, you've got spacing of a few yards, whereas the normal receiver doesn't. He's trying to build it up. He's trying to build back up to speed, because trust me, if you try to go 10 yards and immediately turn around, your momentum takes you. You got to stop that momentum. It takes a bit. And you've got to be able to do that. He does it so effortlessly that the defenders who are doing the same thing, right? They may be backpedaling instead of running forward, but they're suddenly got to stop and push off and go the other direction. It gives him the advantage. And I think we're going to like seeing that this season and coming up, and hopefully many more seasons.
Yeah, Dave, thanks for that, because excellent points. The rapid fire feat that I found was that he found, even when he's a smaller guy, so you're automatically, hey, let's press, let's get some hands on him, but you can't get hands on him because he just bing 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 and he's gone by you. I just found that he's so effective at that. But the whole thing about less steps to change direction, that's huge too. Like, he can get those DBs turning their hips, but they cannot recover quickly enough to go where he's going and where the ball's going. And he's really impressive doing that, and just so smooth doing it. And also very versatile. He played slot. He played wide. He did them equally well.
All the receiver positions.
Yeah. Yes. Played all of the receivers, ran all the routes. He knows all the routes. He's not like a raw route runner. He can run all the routes. He's done it for 3 years in college. And the Vikings, even though he's not a big guy, but he's like really, really surprised. Like, he just very slippery with the ball in his hands. Like, he'll get the ball, like, you think that a guy's got an angle on him, or you think they got a good shot. They don't get a good shot on him. He somehow finds a way with that quick change of direction. Mm-hmm. He can get that extra 2 or 3 yards. He's not going to break tackles, but he doesn't have to, because they don't get a good arm or 2 arms on him, because he's got that ability to slip by them, change
directions without slowing down real quick. Mm-hmm.
On a dime. And that became really important on bubble screens, wide receiver screens. He's has a ton of experience at that at Pitt and at USC. They used him a lot on that. He does it very well. We know last year the Vikings wide receiver screen game was terrible. I don't know why, but they just did not do it very well. And with the LA Rams that Kevin O'Connell came from, that was one of the staples of their offense. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, they got him wide receiver screens, get 8 yards, no problem. We had a big problem with doing that. I think Jordan Addison is going to really improve the wide receiver screen game for the Vikings, because he does it well. He did it well at 3 years of college. He knows how to do it, and Kevin O'Connell is going to find a way to get him the ball in those ways. We talked about route running. The other thing that, like, Addison, you'll hear them talk about it a lot, was like a big strength of him. Part of what you were talking about at the change of direction, but he's just really good at manipulating defensive backs, and like a little turn of the head,
right,
makes them think they're going one way. A little move of the shoulder, a little stop and go. And just, he gets the defensive backs thinking, they see a tell, they think, this is the route that he's running. No, Jordan Addison has fooled them, and he runs another route and gets by them that way. He's just a master at that sort of thing. And so there's a lot of great things with him, and his football IQ is very good too. I think, like, he recognizes, where the safeties are, where's the defense lined up. Is there deep safety help? Is there not? Is it zone? Is it man? He can recognize that, and he adjusts his routes accordingly. And again, that's very important. Keenan McCardell is not going to get a wide receiver here who doesn't know what he's doing, like, who can only run one route, a go route, or a deep post. Jordan Addison can run them all, and he knows coverages. And I think that, he's just a perfect guy, with Justin Jefferson ahead of him, with KJ Osborne ahead of him. Like, he's a perfect guy to come in there and complement those two, and no pressure on him at all. But, those are the pros with him. I think, the cons, the big con, everybody's going to say it, and you have to bring it up, is that he measured at the combine. He's under 6 feet, and he wasn't even 180 pounds. But hey, he's always been that size. I don't think he's going to get a whole lot bigger, but he's been productive 3 years
Right. And
at the highest levels of college football.
And he could put on 20 pounds of good weight and still be fine. I love that Dr. Proter says there's a difference between fast and speedy, and you are 100% correct, Doctor. And you talked about Moss being a prime example. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. And In the Zone podcast, welcome to the show. Saw you post earlier acknowledging you say JA is going to be a nice with JJ and Naylor. Now, it's going to be interesting to see. We're going to have a battle for the wide receiver 3 position, without a doubt, and the 2 for that matter, because most likely KJ Osborne is going to start out at the 2, and JA.
We'll see from there.
Addison is going to have to overtake him, and we're going to see from there. And we know that Naylor's had a good OTA so far, and you got to give that a grain of salt because they are in shorts and shorts, and that's it. I mean, I think they do wear shells, but that's it. Once we get into the end of the month, and we're in July, yes, which means we have training camp towards the end of the month. Once we get there, we're going to see stuff start to take place, and we're going to start to get a look at these folks in earnest, what they're doing, and how they are going against guys in pads at the NFL level, and it should be good to have. And Dr. Pro says the 4, really, it's a nice problem to have. Yes, I agree. I think I like the depth that we have right now in the wide receiver room. I think it's a good thing and good for developing. They're all young.
Yes. And as far as what role Jordan Addison is going to have in 2023, Dave, I think it's going to be, he's a first round pick, duh. Like I do. So I think he's going to have a significant role in the Vikings offense. He's at least going to be your number 3 guy. Mm-hmm. And I'll be very disappointed actually if he doesn't overtake KJ Osborne as your number 2 sometime midway through the season. Because I like KJ Osborne. I like what he's done the past 2 years and all of that. But Jordan Addison, to me, just looking at him, is just a better athlete than KJ Osborne.
Who would you compare him to?
And I've seen him compared to three players he's compared to: Devontae Smith, Tyler Lockett, and then Calvin Ridley. I've seen him compared to all 3 of those guys. And Dave, I think you asked me offline, can Jordan Addison get 1,000 yards in his rookie season? I think that's going to be tough for him because you got Justin Jefferson. The Vikings are looking at running the ball a little bit more than they did last year. So if things go the way Kevin O'Connell wants to, they won't have to throw quite as much as they did last year. We'll see about
60-40 roughly last year.
Yeah, we'll see about that. But you got Justin Jefferson, who's still going to get a ton of balls thrown his way, as well he should. You got TJ Hawkinson, who's going to get a ton of balls thrown his way. And then KJ Osborne is still an effective wide receiver, and he's probably going to get a ton. So I think it's going to be tough. Yeah,
that's the big deal.
I think it's going to be tough for Jordan to get 1,000 yards, but if like Tyler Lockett, Devontae Smith, and Calvin Ridley, they didn't get 1,000 yards their rookie seasons either. But if you look, they were still highly effective as rookies. Well over 50 catches over 60 catches each in one of them. And if Jordan Addison turns out to be as good as those 3 dudes, I am going to be very happy with this selection. And I think all Viking fans will. So he's going to have a significant impact this year for the Vikings. I'll be very disappointed if he does not, and actually a bit worried if he does not. But I don't see that. I think as far as a no-brainer guy that you can plug and play and be a productive player, Jordan Addison is that kind of guy.
I think you're right, 100%. I look forward to seeing him, especially in training camp in the preseason. I want to see this guy play. He's been injured since rookie minicamp. They say it's minor, and they've been safe. And what I'm hearing, it's a hammy. So hopefully get that hammy healed 100% and hit the ground running. I look forward to seeing him in purple and what he can do. I think there's, Raymond says, too many balls to go around. Raymond, even if, and I was just thinking this, last year we're 60-40. Even if they increase the run game, which I don't know if they're going to increase the run game more than make it more efficient, use it wisely in places where it needs to be used versus how they did it last year. But even if they do increase the run game, if you increase the pass production, you still get more. These guys can get bigger numbers. Do I think they're going to increase the pass game or get bigger numbers? I don't think they're going to go above like 60%, but do I think they can get bigger numbers? Yes, I do. I think the Kevin O'Connell's matching of efficiency, both in the run game, say, instead of starting, 1st and 10 and then going 2nd and 11, which happened last year, we go 1st and 10, 2nd and 6, then the whole playbook's wide open. I expect then to see, hey, JJ's getting his. I'd love to see JJ get 2,000, right? Let's start adding this. JJ with 2,000. We know TJ's going to get his. Is he going to get 750 to 1,000? I can see that easily, right? So if we say 1,000, that's 3,000 right there. Well, if you say KJ and Addison here, both combined for 1,500-ish total, that's 4,500 yards right there. That doesn't include the occasional screen to CJ Ham or, the occasional long ball to Jalen Naylor. And it could be,
who might not make the team.
I'm betting he is. But I could see, now this is me. This is Dave. You know how everybody who watches me for a long time knows how I feel about our wonderful quarterback, Kirk Cousins. I could see Kirk Cousins going over $5,000 this year on yardage if they are as efficient as Kevin O'Connell wants them to be and score as many points as they need to, right? Hey, I want the Flores defense to step up and get absolutely crazy. Dr. Pro is talking about he'd be okay with 4,500. But I could see Kirk Cousins in a contract year, right? Being motivated. JJ ready to rock and roll and prove his contract extension and everybody else. And that they go off. Now, we got a tough schedule, but I can see it. It could happen. It's happened before. We've had, teams and players that have done that. So why not? The NFC is relatively weak. Now, granted, we have a strong schedule because we play first place teams, but hey, it could happen. This could be our year, right? Said the guy that has been following this team and reporting on this team for over 20 freaking years and knows the history of since 1961. This could be it. Hey, now's the time for hope.
Dave, with Jordan Addison, I'm hoping that he's the guy that can prevent Justin Jefferson from having to catch 150 balls and go for over 2,000 yards, because we saw last year a few times when teams had good enough cornerbacks to and made a concerted effort to try to get physical with him and shut him down, Green Bay in particular, and the Eagles, that they were able to do that. So those days when Justin Jefferson isn't quite dominating, but that's what the Eagles had last year. They got Brown, but then you had Devontae Smith. You can't clamp down on both. All right. So that's what I want Jordan Addison to be, is to be the 1B to the 1A Justin Jefferson, and to take a little bit of the heat off him, to having to to make this offense move and make all the game-changing plays, is particularly with Dalvin Cook gone now. That's what I'm hoping for. Might not happen this year, but year 2, year 3, that's what I'm looking for from Jordan Addison.
Oh, we'll be on a new quarterback. I'm rooting. Believe it or not, Mary can attest to this. I'm rooting for Kirk Cousins this year. I want him to have his best season yet.
Oh, well, if he has his best season yet, our offense is going to be humming like you won't believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think Jordan Addison could be part of that. So if
he's got to be
able, Giatano Amato is talking about if JJ's able to go for 2,000, that means Addison is a factor defenses have to contend with. Yes, exactly. Right? Because right now we know going into the season, everybody's going to do too high on Justin Jefferson. That's the way to do it. You put 2 or 3 guys on him and you try to shut him down. We're going to see more of that this season because it was successful last season. The way to beat that is to suddenly have Jordan Addison wide open, Kirk Cousins going that way, KJ Osborne wide open, Kirk Cousins going that way, and of course the big man, TJ Hawkinson, wide open, and Kirk Cousins going, there's my mattress, boom, right, and going that way. That's why I think this could be a special season, even though we play the number 1 teams, even though we play the Eagles, right? Week 2, that's going to be a biggie. You know, I still think we can do that. And me, yes, I'm forever the optimist, but I have realistic tendencies in me. And I get down every once in a while. But I do believe this year could be it, especially if the defense comes together. That'll be a big part of it. But I think this offense could be special.
I agree, Dave. I'm not even worried about Dalvin Cook being gone. Yeah, like the home run threat's not going to be as much, or at least that's what we're thinking. But if we can get 4 or 5 yards every time we run the ball instead of minus 2, minus 1, 3, and then
16,
20 carries later, we get like a 20-yarder. Yeah. I'd like a little bit more consistency out of that, but remains to be seen. But the Vikings had the pieces on offense to be a Brad Childress kick-ass offense, no doubt about it.
But we're not playing that style of offense. But yes,
we aren't.
Could be. Hey, I want to thank everybody that's joined us today. It's been great to see you all there. And as people have been saying, like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that stuff, it does matter. It really does. It does help with the algorithm and gets us out to other people. And, we're just one of the Vikings First and SKOL shows. Tomorrow you will have, no, you may not, because Tyler said he may take Monday off. You may or may not have a show Monday, or I may call on a special guest and we may talk. Who knows what happens on Monday? For those that are still around, it's the holiday weekend. Yesterday was Canada Day. Tuesday is the 4th of July, Independence Day for the United States. And as always, we want you to stay safe. Whatever you're doing, we don't want you coming back at the end of the week going, Dave, I can't type comments because I blew off my fingers. No, don't do that.
Jason Pierre-Paul.
Yep. Anyway, but that's what it is. Guys, you've been great in the comments today. And Yogi, sorry about yesterday. I saw it briefly, but you know how jacked up Twitter has been. That's a whole different story. Any last words, everybody?
We're into July, Dave. So 3 weeks time? It's going to be start of Vikings training camp, and that's when we're going to start. So we might have a couple of lean weeks here where we not a whole lot's happening.
But the Vikings are content generators.
Yeah, that's true. But looking forward to training camp because there's certain players. Jalen Naylor was mentioned earlier by a couple of viewers. and looking to in like shorts and a helmet. He was looking great. But I just remember last year, the last 2 games where he showed some stuff against Green Bay and Chicago, and just looking for him to build on that, because depth. The Vikings don't have a lot of depth. And at wide receiver, with adding Jordan Addison, you already got KJ Osborne and Justin Jefferson. But if Jalen Naylor and Jordan Addison can be like quality guys, that gives you 4. That gives you a really good wide receiver room. And you don't have to worry about depth. If one guy goes down, you got somebody who can come in and be productive. So,
and they used to add their little bit of spice to the stew, and it makes for a great mix. I think it's absolutely wonderful.
But be looking forward to seeing like Ivan Pace. What's he going to do? Like just, the ballyhooed undrafted rookie free agent, the linebacker, and our linebacker depth is not that strong. So lots of guys in training camp are going to be watching for the rookies, the undrafted free agents, the guys who have been reserves that we're hoping will take a step up, like Andrew Booth Jr. and that sort of thing. What's going to happen with the cornerbacks? All kinds of stuff. Looking forward to it.
Yes. Grandizer. Yes. It would be nice to have a game that we don't have to worry about blood pressure meds or, I was about to say over drink, but I like doing that anyways.
Doesn't matter.
Blowout,
nice close game, Dave's going to be drinking.
By the first half, it would be nice. It would. Hey, folks, speaking of drinking, I want you to stay safe. Enjoy whatever beverage you're enjoying, because there's a bunch of great ones out there. Enjoy your friends and family more. It's a special weekend, whether it's Canada Day yesterday or our Independence Day on the 4th. We both celebrate that. It's a good time to get out, get some vitamin D, get out in the sun, go fishing, go golfing, do whatever, turns your crank and gets you excited. And have a good time. Spend it with people you love and just absolutely like being around, like me with Darren. I know that's weird, but I like him. He's a good co-host. But it's that time of year and enjoy. But be safe. Don't be stupid. Like we had in the military, we had safety briefings, especially on big holiday weekends. And the big deal was it boils down to don't be stupid. But be safe, do things smart, and we look forward to seeing you soon again. What do we say there, buddy?
We say SKOL Vikings, baby.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite podcast aggregator. Darren and Dave, thank you for watching this episode of Two Old Bloggers. We look forward to seeing you on every show on the new Vikings First and SKOL. You can find our podcast as part of the Fans First Sports Network. Sports takes for the fan, from the fan. SKOL, everybody!